one drink, you were going to black out. I mean, plain and simple. And, you know, there was a time, I'll tell this story because I don't think the person I'm telling the story about would care. So I will tell this. And if he's in the audience, maybe he'll yell at me if I'm not supposed to tell this story. But I used to go to Mexico and buy a lot of these. They were really a moneymaker back in the day because you could buy, it was like $14 a box. And the pills were going for anywhere from like $10 to $15 a piece when they first started to make the scene. So, you know, 30 in a box, it was a pretty good moneymaker. And I ended up with about 40 or 50 boxes of these things. And I would sell them in 10 strips to friends that would go into clubs and then mark them up and sell them, whatever. And the issue got to the point where I started doing really screwy things. Like one day I woke up in the morning, and at the time I drove a Saab 900. And when I woke up in the morning, I had a little coffee table that was a wicker chest with a piece of glass over the top of it. And on the coffee table, I had $100 bills, $50 bills, 20s, 10s, 5s, all the way down to 1s. All of the money I had kind of organized like it would be in a cash drawer, except it was just laying on a glass table. And I was sitting on the couch like Homer Simpson with my head back and my mouth wide open. And when I woke up, I looked at all the money and my front door was open. I lived in an apartment and the front door was open. And I thought, you could see the money from the front door. Like, this is just stupid. So I went to go get into my bedroom and the door was locked. So I knocked on the door to yell at my wife for not closing the front door. And she opened the bedroom door and just looked at me with this look and said, "Are you kidding?" And I thought, oh man, I'm in trouble. I had an IBM ThinkPad. It was a laptop. It was about that thick. It was, I mean, the thing weighed a metric ton. It was one of the first IBM. It didn't have a mouse. It had a little stick with a little red ball on the top that you kind of used. You know, it's totally different than any of the laptops today. It was in the freezer. It was in the freezer, which didn't make a whole lot of sense. And it didn't do a whole lot of good for the laptop either. Everything was screwed up. My keys were in the microwave oven. I had no memory of any of the things that I did. But when I went to shut the door, there was an eviction notice taped to it. And I said to my wife, "Is there a reason we're evicted?" She said, "It's probably your parking job last night." I said, "We're getting evicted because of my parking job." People, I drove my Saab to the front door of my apartment. And if you've ever been in like a nice apartment complex where the trails kind of wind around trees. So when you leave the parking lot, there's a walking path that might be 150 feet with a bunch of turns and things like that. I just drove up it. And I parked my car right near the front door, left the door of my car open. There was no fixing this. I couldn't go down to them and say, normally when I screwed up, I would go down and tell them I would pay 7 or 8 months rent all at once. And I'm really, really sorry. No, I was gone. Evicted. So that's not the point of the story, by the way. Point of the story was I realized just how badly these things were for me. The fact that I could black out that badly and had no memory of anything that I did. So I boxed them up and I sent them to somebody in another state. And since, I sent them to Johnny. I packaged them up and I sent them to Johnny. And I sent them with a bit of a warning letter that just said, man, I can't have these things, that they will absolutely erase your memory. And about 4 weeks later, maybe a little bit more than that, they came back. Johnny packaged up the ones that he had not taken and sent them back to me. Now, at the time, he had been working a very straight job and he wasn't partying. At the end of the day, he would go home, he would take one of these, he'd drink a few beers or whatever, but then he would black out. And one night he wrote himself a letter basically chastising himself for all of the things that he was doing. Think of it as journaling, but just on a piece of paper. Well, when he woke up in the morning, there was a letter telling him what an idiot he was, written by him that he had no memory of writing. So he packaged them all back up, put them in a box, and sent them back to me with a letter that said, don't ever, ever send me anything like this again. Now, imagine the damage that a freak could do with that kind of substance.
You know, and people are probably like, yeah, you can see how it feels, right? Fuck, man. You guys are all up this guy's ass. And whatever, you want me to leave it alone? And just for your knowledge, Johnny Scoville there, he thanked me. He says I'm his biggest fan, or people like me are his biggest fans. We watch his videos multiple times. We watch every video, he says. It's an exaggeration. There's times where I watch some videos, and then there's times where I don't. But yeah, but I'm not over there commenting. I'll make a comment on my own video, my own channel. It's not being a troll. But there's so much more I want to say. There's so many fucking names on here. These people, I just want to. What am I going to say? I got people on here saying, yeah, well, I had his video taken down because he attacked me personally. Guess what? YouTube hasn't taken down too many of my videos. They've taken down a few. But I can guarantee that if the quadroon who's mentioning this on Facebook with his other fucking I took that video down because I felt bad about it. And that's how most of my videos get taken down. I think about it later and I feel bad and I take them down. I say I've gone too far, or they smack me with fucking age restriction. I don't know. But don't congratulate yourself for getting a video that I made when a fucking year and a half or whatever taken down. I believe that I took that video down and the one after it. But I'll check. I mean, I can put them back up if you want. But what's the point? My main thing was just pointing out that this guy right here, your boy Johnny Scoville.
If one of those 6 police officers had their act together, nobody would have ever met me. Nobody would have ever met you. We would have just been 2 guys rotting away in jail for at least a 40 piece.
That's right. Just pointing that out. I'll leave it alone. 40 years, we're not talking about pushing a cart of shit out of the supermarket or loading up a bunch of shit at Home Depot and fucking getting out of the store with it. Or we're not even talking about robbing people at gunpoint for 40 years. We're not talking about it like any normal crime. I mean, if you're going to call crime normal or like regular crime, that we're not talking about that. 40 years. Again, my bad if it's not a sex crime, my bad. But then what could it be? Is it murder? Serial murder or anything like that? 40 years. Listen, we're not talking about a guy who was running guns, stealing guns from a police department or a military base or selling guns internationally, wasn't ripping people off like Bernie Madoff on Wall Street or any of this stuff. He may have been committing mail fraud or mail crimes, for shipping date rape drugs through the mail, as his brother said. But 40 years it's not like the normal thing. I've made a lot of mistakes in life, people. I've done some things that maybe I should be sitting in jail for, but hey, what would I get? 2 to 4? Skid bid numbers, No football numbers here, okay? Now, if that was you before, hey, let's hope you're not like that anymore. But it's not wise to go saying all that shit on the internet like that. I mean, could you imagine committing a heavy crime with a dude like Kurt Miller back in the day? And now he's on the internet admitting to it that he did something that he should be sitting in prison for 40 years for? Do you want to have to worry about that if you were running with the guy back then? I don't know, people. This is just a rambling video. There's so much more I want to say.